G'day YouTube, I'm back with another video. Today I want to talk about something that happens to me periodically. I think it's related to autistic meltdowns. I'm going to call it an episode of acute anxiety. I believe that these things come from anxiety. It's related to my social anxiety. And it's one of the worst things about Asperger's for me anyway. So I'll cut to the chase. Tell you what happened. On Wednesday I had to leave work early. I developed this really bad headache, a headache that comes from my temples and it goes back through my head and also down the side through my cheeks and into my jaws. But yeah, it's really intense here in the temples. And there's also this pain, like right behind my eyeballs in here, makes it feel like my eyes are about to pop out my head. And there's also a churning, burning sort of feeling in my stomach, which gets worse as I think about the cause of the anxiety. And so I had Thursday and Friday at home. Thursday, it was the worst. I had extreme photosensitivity. I was sitting around in the house with my sunglasses on. Even though I was inside, I had all the windows, the curtains rather drawn, so that the light couldn't come in from outside. But I still had to wear my sunglasses because the light was too much. And I slept most of the day on Thursday. There was a few times throughout the day where I would get up and check emails and stuff like that for a couple of hours or maybe read. But the light would get too much for me and I'd have to go into my bed and hide under the sheets, and even seeing the sunlight reflected off the ceiling was too much for me. Whenever I saw the sunlight, it would make it seem like reality was melting, like I was having a really hard time just looking around. Things would be warped and out of focus and really blurry. And I'm still not 100% now, and this is what's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and it's night time, so 3.5 days later. It was nearly 9:30, yeah, 3.5 days later, and I'm still not totally recovered. I woke up this morning after 12 hours sleep, still feeling exhausted, and I've done barely anything. I did not leave the house at all on Thursday. I heard the postman come by and put something in the letterbox, but I was honestly scared to go outside my own front door. I had stuff I wanted to clean up in the backyard, but I could hear people, in the houses around me and hear dogs barking and stuff like that, and that was just too much for me. I couldn't even go outside into my own backyard. So I was stuck in this house for over 48 hours actually, until yesterday afternoon. At about 4 o'clock, I actually summoned up the courage and the energy to go outside and check the mailbox. And I felt like that was a huge achievement, a huge accomplishment for me. And it was, really, compared to how I felt the day before. I probably won't, go out anywhere until tomorrow. I haven't left the house today. Not that I didn't want to or I couldn't. I just thought it would be best to hang on to that bit of energy. I'm going to go to the markets tomorrow. That'll probably use up all my spoons. I'll probably have to come home and go to sleep after going to the markets. It probably seems so strange for a guy like me to be saying this, and especially for someone who knows me to find out about this side of me. It would be, I think, hard for them to believe that something like that can be such a struggle for me. It wouldn't be if I had someone else with me, but to go out on my own it can be very difficult. If I had a friend with me, I kind of feel like I'm meant to be there. It's okay for me if I'm with a friend or in a small group, but if I'm on my own, I feel like I'm not meant to be there, like I'm out of place, like I'll get in trouble just for existing, just for being me. This is the second time I've had a massive one of these attacks or episodes this year. I had one about the time that I realised I was autistic. I think that was May the 7th. I felt more or less the same as I had the last couple of days. The last couple of days weren't quite as bad as that, but a lot of the symptoms were still the same, like the photosensitivity, the massive headache, the pressure behind my eyes. It made it feel like my eyes were about to, pop out of my head. The sickness, it's feeling like a churning, burning sort of, like your stomach's been turned into a washing machine almost, and it's just very, very unpleasant. And that would get more intense as I thought about the causes or sources of anxiety. And that brings me to another point. I had 10 or 12 of these episodes last year, with the last being on the 10th of October. Almost every time I was ended up having to be admitted to hospital, because back then, when I had these episodes and I had that churning in my stomach, it developed into severe nausea, and I would throw up, and I would just throw up, and again and again and again, and no food that I ate would stay down. And it got to the point where I couldn't even drink water. On the last few, I was so anxious and so upset that I couldn't even hold down water. I'd try to take painkillers to kill the pain in my stomach and to kill the headache, and 5 minutes later it would come back out, and I'd see the painkillers there in the toilet. After they'd come out, and they wouldn't do anything. I couldn't even hold that down. The difference between then and now, not only have I been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, the difference is that I changed my diet in a big way. The last time I went to hospital, on the 10th of October last year, I thought I was going to die. I really did. I was laying there thinking, if I don't change something big about my life, I'm going to die. And I was drinking a lot of alcohol back then. I've cut way back. I rarely drink at all now, and if I do, I pretty much limit myself to a 6-pack of beer. But I used to easily be able to drink an 11.25 bottle of vodka to myself in one night, and plus more. If there was more alcohol around, I would drink that too. I used to smoke cigarettes, heaps of cigarettes, pack or two a day. Funnily enough, that last time that I went to hospital, I'd actually picked that day to quit, and I didn't have any cigarettes at all that day, and I haven't since. 9th of October last year was the last time I had a cigarette, but I had been seeing a naturopath. I saw a naturopath a couple of times leading up to the 10th of October, because this had been a recurring problem, and the doctor had been treating it as a dietary problem, and they prescribed me these drugs and stuff that weren't working, and it just seemed to make it worse. So I went and saw this naturopath, and she said, Sean, you've got to cut out gluten from your diet, cut out dairy, cut out refined sugar and preservatives. And I cut out the gluten. That was easy, and I thought, with the other stuff, no, I'm not going to worry about that. But as I lay there in bed that night thinking that I was going to die, I decided that, from the next day onwards, I was going to cut all of those things out of my diet, and I did. It was pretty easy for me to do, actually, because I had a huge source of motivation. In that, when I got to the hospital, I was in so much pain, I was flipping about, thrashing all over the place. When they tried to stick a needle in my arm, because they wanted to put me on a drip, because I was so dehydrated from throwing up my water all day, they wanted to put a drip in my arm, but I was thrashing around with the pain, all over the place, and I tore the drip out of my arm. I didn't even feel it go in the first place, but I didn't feel it come out either, and they said, Sean, you got to hold still, we're trying to put a drip in your arm, and I wouldn't have even known the nurses were there if they didn't say anything. I was just in my own world. I was basically disassociative, I guess. Went for it a second time, and they managed to get it in, but I was still flapping about all over the place, in a lot of pain. My back was arching, my stomach was cramping up, and so I had these huge bruises on my arm. Like, I'm going to hold my arm in the camera there, that covered about there and there, so almost the whole inside of my forearm was covered in bruises, and it lasted for a couple of weeks. So after that time that I went to hospital, every time I would look down at my arm, or every time I felt like a cigarette or felt like something sugary, I would look at my arm and think, no, if you have a cigarette or if you eat that thing that you want to eat, you are going to go back to hospital and you'll die. And that's how I gave up smoking and gave up sugar. And I think that has really helped me. Definitely helped me this week just gone. Felt that burning, churning feeling in my stomach that I used to get last year. It's the same feeling. I know that feeling intimately. It's like a part of me. It's burned into my memory. and it didn't make me sick this time. So I know that I'm on the right track with my diet. But yeah, I kind of just wanted to share that story with you because that has, it's been really shit the last few days. I've been so tired. I've barely been able to do anything. Like I said before, I can't even leave the house, and I just feel so shit. I feel heaps better now, because I've done pretty much nothing but sleep and read and eat for a few days. But even today, I did have a chat with a friend of mine on the phone. It would have been less than 2 minutes, and it wasn't a heated chat. It wasn't about anything serious. But afterwards, my headache came back. I started feeling sick again. The photosensitivity was back, and I think I had to sit down and do maths problems to get my mind off it. But just that tiny little bit of socialising was enough to bring all these symptoms back on. So I'm a bit nervous about going to the markets tomorrow, but there's some stuff I have to buy, and it's just down the end of the street, so I'm going to do it. But I'm kind of curious to know, does anyone else out there have these sorts of problems? Thank God this is only a very rare sort of thing for me. It doesn't happen all the time, and it seems to be in response to increasing levels of social anxiety that this happens. And yeah, that social anxiety sets off the burning in my stomach. It sets off the headache. It sets off my sensory issues. My sensory issues are normally fine. They're not that bad at all. And during these episodes, they get really, really bad. So bad that it keeps me confined to my house. So does that happen to anyone else? And what do you do to get over it? Alright, well, I guess I better finish up there, or this video is going to go forever. So if you've stuck all the way through to the end, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.